Do we remember how to do this?
Welcome to Zero Hit Points. It's Tuesday, something of a day, and we're back. And I'm not the person. It's gotta be the other guy.
It's not easy, is it?
It's hard. What day is it? Right? Is it?
It's at the top. You could just. It
But
says January 30th.
Yeah, January 30th, comma February 1st. Like it could be multiple things. Is it one whole day?
That's later.
know. Okay.
Don't pay attention to the second half.
Okay.
It is Tuesday
Wait.
though. That's different.
Okay.
That might be throwing you off.
Let's try this. Let's just take a step back.
I don't know.
No, hold on. I think you're gonna like
Okay.
this. Why don't we try it just for one? Out of it's been like 160 episodes plus whatever.
Nope.
Why don't we try this just one time? You do the intro.
Welcome to Zero Hit Points, everybody. It is Tuesday. It's January 30th. You know all this. I am Ryan Miller. He is Matthew Amberg, and we are both back.
Hey, I can see your front.
And as sharp as ever.
Sharp as a tack, light as a board. Wait,
But we're still 0 hit points. I think that's the important thing. That's the takeaway from this. Even if we're a different, a more mature 0 hit points?
matured in age, not in mentality.
There will be differences. There will be blood. There will be differences. Those are your guarantees.
Yeah.
For every podcast.
Okay, let's go over the big difference. That I think the biggest difference we're going to run into will be that we are now splitting our podcast into 2 podcasts instead of 1 because it's just so much more rounder in number.
You knew that was going to happen. We talked about that. Has been a long time coming. At least
We did. So we're going to be splitting the podcast up. We've got a brand new podcast coming out. It'll be out this Thursday. Book Club for Movies.
the best title that was out there.
It's the best. It's the only title available to us. We were in a lottery and we lost. But
it was also a title we came up with at the same time we came up with 0 hit points.
Yeah,
like that title is like 4 years old. How old are we? Are we in our third, fourth?
This will be our 4th year, I think, at the end of the year. Yeah,
that was like the second toss-off thing. We're like, oh, that's funny.
Yeah,
it perfectly encapsulates a lot of stuff.
And it's been sitting in a good ideas folder with quotations around good ideas. But head on over to that podcast later in the week. It'll be out on Thursdays. If you want to hear stuff about movies, we're going to talk more in depth about that. It'll be great because I have acting experience, not in front of a camera, but in front of stage. And Ryan went to film school. So we're pretty much the smartest people you're going to hear talk about movies. But this particular show, this is not movies.
The games cast for all intents and purposes.
You're going to call it that. I'm going to call it something else.
I'm not going to call it that. That's just a descriptor. This is still 0 hit points.
Ooh.
Welcome to 0 hit points.
Yeah, gosh. Just rub the salt in the wound. We reopened a wound called Zero. It was healing, and then we came back, and so now the wound is back.
We've reopened 0 hit points.
We are the wound.
That's what, you just won't hear about any movies in the introduction now, so we're going to have to come up with interesting actualities that happened.
So let's try this. Hey, Ryan, what happened this week?
So I found the soundboard. It's here. It's got a bunch of popular radio sound effects.
Whoop. Crazy. We were changing the show
Toilet
from 0
flush.
hit point to Crazy Ira and the Douche.
Oh man, and you're knee deep in Parks and Rec. No, that's the other show. Again,
See, we can't do it.
Amberg.
I can't live my life like this, Ryan. Okay. But okay, what did
definitely check that cast out. It's going to be fun. It won't just be that we're building out both casts in kind of their own direction. So this is going to be more than it has been with terms to games, and we'll get into that once we get there. I think that's the way to do it. The movie TV cast, the whatever you want to call that, because we have a book club for movies. That's what I'm calling we want to call it. Yeah. Okay. That's gonna be a lot of what what'd you watch this week, but also we're gonna go into deep. Obviously, we'll have the one movie that we'll you can participate in, but
Yeah.
we'll watch together and talk about. So
We want you all to be part of the book club, but we're going to talk about the book club during
Yes,
book club.
forget- yeah.
Let's get back to 0 hit points here.
Let's do it.
I gotta tell you a couple of fascinating things that have happened to me over the past few weeks. None of which are
Please.
really fascinating.
Oh,
My son is in town, which is very novel.
fascinating.
He came to visit, and yesterday was the Royal Rumble, WWE's Royal Rumble.
Does the Queen attend? What's the
Yeah, Beth watches
The
sometimes.
king?
What are you talking about? Oh no, they're
nothing?
now I see because it's a Royal Rumble. Yeah, Jerry the King Lawler was there.
Captain Lou Albano,
Captain Lou was not there. His
Andre the Giant.
definitely was there in all his spirit.
Is Hulk Hogan dead?
I bet his spirit is heavy. So we watched the Royal Rumble, and it was a lot of fun. Ian and I hadn't gotten to sit down and watch wrestling or have those conversations, and just kind of
I
bond
was
over
gonna say,
stuff.
was this a family pastime?
Yeah, when he was, especially when he was much younger, like it was something that when I was in my earlier 20s and he was 9, 10, 11, 12, I helped get him into wrestling, and because I've been so lucky in the past, he got to experience some really great things because Cajun from PAX, who's a friend of
Nice.
ours,
Friend of the show.
he used to be a security guard at Key Arena. And we went to a WWE show. I took Ian to his first show, his first live show, Raw, and it was a big thing.
Nice.
And Cajun brought us all the way down and got us onto the floor and hooked us up with amazing seats, and we were like right there. And ever since, it's
And then
just
I
been
picture Cajun actually hopping in the ring at some point. actually.
same size as some of those dudes. He's way bigger too. But ever since, we've always kind of really loved it. It's been fun, and he was coming out to visit, so figured, we'll watch the Royal Rumble. It's my favorite of the events because in this particular one, it's the 30 people can be in the ring at one time. It's just constantly every
Nice.
90 seconds a new wrestler's coming in, and it's just too much fun. This year, we were both super stoked for the guy who won it because he's a guy from New Japan and a terrific wrestler, and this guy named Shinsuke Nakamura, awesome wrestler. And then this was the first year also of the Women's Royal Rumble, which was super freaking cool. That was
Nice.
the most exciting thing, and the awesome Asuka, she was fantastic. She won. And the really exciting thing here for Ian is that for Christmas, Beth got Ian tickets to WrestleMania, and the winner of the Royal Rumble match fights the champion at WrestleMania. And for Ian to see Shinsuke Nakamura and is going to fight a guy named AJ Styles, who are huge, major, incredible wrestlers that have had history, he's going to get to see it live. And he's over the moon. And then we found out that his friend wasn't going to be able to make it. That was supposed to go. So now I'm going to get to go to WrestleMania with Ian.
Nice.
Which is pretty rad. I am pretty stoked about that. I never thought I'd actually go to WrestleMania. So
What day is that?
sometime in April, early
okay.
April.
All right.
it's
You are excited about it. Jeez.
Yeah. And then the other interesting factoid of mine is so I went into the doctor today at a doctor's appointment. I had a weird pain in my groinal region.
Sure.
So I go in and doctor says, could be a hernia. Go to the surgeon. Go to the surgeon today. Surgeon says, not a hernia.
Cool.
It's not, because he's but that means it's not a hernia. So finding out what it is can be really hard because all the things down there, imaging doesn't do a lot for it, I guess. Can't X-rays, MRIs, CAT scans don't
They
show.
can't find
They don't show a lot, so they can't find my crotch. Yeah, I'm sorry, my groin.
Oh,
My groin is undetectable on
medical.
imaging software. So that was the new information I got from a doctor who had to investigate my groinal region today.
cool. A professional who's like,
Well, don't see anything there. And then I said, well, thank you very much. I will absolutely bring my daughter in for a DNA test. You jerk. What about you? What happened to your life? Do you have health?
I got nothing. Remember before we stopped doing this and I barely got to play games because I was working so much?
Yeah.
Guess which one of those things continued?
You didn't play games and you worked much.
That's pretty accurate. I did go to Disneyland,
I love Disneyland.
but even that I don't know.
Even that I
Nothing out of
hated.
the ordinary happened.
I was so tired. It was just like a normal day for me.
It was Disneyland. It was great. It was fun. Went with my parents. We got to see a lot of. They're changing California Adventure quite a bit to be less California adventure-y.
Great. What does that mean?
Yeah. Well, so far it means the Tower of Terror, which was beautifully Twilight Zone themed.
Yeah, I know that's going away and becoming the Guardians of the Galaxy.
Oh, it's gone. Yeah, it's Guardians of the Galaxy. I mean, it's also beautifully Guardians of the Galaxy themed. So they did it really well. Like, I didn't go on it because I hate that ride because it makes me sick immediately. Right. That was the worst surprise of California Adventure ever, was waiting in that line and being like, oh, this thing's so cool. Look at all in Twilight Zone. Who would do that? And like, it's not even a relevant reference. Like, this is so cool. And then I get on the ride and it's like, we're going up and down really fast. I'm like, you stupid. Why would you even? This is the worst. It's immediately sick. I'm like, I hate this ride.
I don't know how you didn't know what you were getting into just from the screaming.
Everybody's screaming on everything. People scream on Thunder Mountain. Like, come on. Why does that make sense?
People were screaming in the in the Toy Story video game.
See?
That's fair.
But I didn't go on the ride, but I literally got in line to get inside and like go through the ambiance. They have a movie that plays with Benicio del Toro and they have all the actors in it actually, but they're all CGI'd into the narrative. And this is how bad it is. Yeah, it's the tower belongs to the collector. He's collected the Guardians, and the ride is you breaking them out of prison.
Yeah, that's dumb.
Yeah.
Give me the Tower
this
of
is how
Terror.
dumb I am. Is that when my wife got off it, I was like, how does the story go? How's the narrative?
I care. I'm really invested in this amusement park ride. I need to know.
The Guardians Breakout. That's the name of the ride, actually. Breakout.
Well, don't need to go on that again.
But no, everything else. Splash Mountain was close. That was a bummer. That's usually the one where you can scream.
Did you play the Toy Story video game?
Yes. Good. I didn't do there's kind of two. The one in Disneyland, Buzz Lightyear Blasters, I did not do. I was out getting a fast pass or something. Well, no, so you're not talking about Midway Mania then on California Adventure?
No, that didn't exist, I think, when I was there.
Dude, way better. That's the Toy Story video game you want to play.
Oh, all right.
Yeah, it's got a Midway theme, so you're on the boardwalk, doing a carnival type thing, and you're in a cart that goes around, and there's a gun in the seat that activates by pulling a plunger back and forth. So yeah, whatever you're thinking right now, yeah,
toilets,
but
poop butt.
And then it's all target practice.
Yeah.
So it takes you to different. You have 3D glasses on, so it takes you to different arenas where you're shooting this gun and trying to get a higher score of whoever else is in you. It matches you against whoever's in the seat with you, but you can match against obviously my entire family. We were doing it, so way better than Buzz Lightyear Blasters.
All right, fantastic.
We played video games, Matt. Let's not keep your eye on the prize.
I did. It's been 1 week since you looked at me. Yeah, I'm sorry. I can't.
Dude, we went like 150, 60 episodes without a bare naked ladies reference.
I don't think you're right about that. I do not think you're right about that.
I'm not going to look it up.
I wish we had this is the point where I wish we were famous and popular enough to have some random person post on the webpage, wrong, episode 102, 15 minutes.
You're saying we want that guy is what you're saying.
I do.
Though.
I definitely want. I want the person who's going to listen to us and be a pedant about everything and just
the zero HP pedant.
Yeah,
no, I love it. Yeah, we got to get that guy.
Everything, nitpicking, all of it.
We will pay you. You want a job? Job opening at 0 hit points for pedant.
Yeah.
And that's pedant.
Yes.
It's different than the other thing you're thinking. Please don't apply.
If you've seen
for the pedophile position.
Yeah, that's not. We don't have. Okay, let's go ahead and step back. That position is not something that we will fill. It doesn't exist in our org chart. The one that I'm a part of.
Where do you go with that bit? Like that position has been filled? No, that's not what you want to say.
No, filling that position. Any filling involved in that is outright wrong.
Oh.
But look, It's
sharp
been,
as ever.
It's been nearly 2 months since
you
I've
looked at me.
touched. That feels like it.
No, okay, no. We play. Oh my gosh, it's been. I can't believe that we played video games and we have them to talk about. So let's not. We can't. This is a huge occurrence. Let's not.
It's been like 2 months since I've touched games. I kind of had that discussion or that point on our. I think it was our last episode or maybe the one right before it.
Next to last, yeah, we did the favorite 5.
So our penultimate episode of last year, I talked about how I was having kind of a difficulty with the games that I want to play and just my skills in general and all that and coming to grips with things. And that's what I spent a lot of this time doing was kind of looking at all the games that I have that are coming out, that have been out and just kind of trying to decide how I want to engage. And ultimately, I think I figured it out. I'm not really ready to outright state that. Yeah, no, I'm just going to keep doing what I'm doing and try to accept things from a different plane, from a different perspective.
Sure.
It's the so I'm leading into Fortnite here because that was like the first thing I turned back on, and my first game in, I get all the way down to 5th place, and I actually felt really good about. Not about what happened in that game in general, like getting down to 5th in that one wasn't hard. The one kill, I had one kill in that game, and it was from some dude that dropped down behind me and stood there and looked at me, and then didn't start shooting at me until I killed it. He was almost dead. I don't know what happened there. But I feel like there was I'd been watching enough of the videos and stuff and kind of picking things up and I did get to a point where right before I died, I actually felt pretty good about what I was doing. Like, I didn't know where the dude was, which was a huge part of why I died. I wasn't sure where he was. And then the storm was closing in on me on top of that. So I was kind of in a weird position. But it was fine. And it was fun and I enjoyed it. And all the same kind of like, oh, so nervous when you get down to like those last 10 guys and all that. But ultimately what I've kind of come back to is it's a game that I want to be good at. And I've said this before. I want to get that one win. I realize that getting the one win is going to lead to wanting 2 wins and 3 wins. I get that. but you got to get over the first hump. And while the odds of me getting over that hump due to pure skill is nil, I think one of the things that I'm coming to grips with is I'm trying to learn how to be competitive and have fun without getting annoyed by my lack of skill, my lack of ability. So I'm trying to come to grips with that still. And I'm just going to keep playing the game because I really love it. I love looking at it. I love talking about it. I love watching the game being played. It's like one of those weird things. I will watch players like Ninja. Ninja is he's an amazing Fortnite player. That guy is just insane. And I get so frustrated because you see guys like that are so good. They know they've got the win in the bag that they're just goofing off for like the last 10, 15 guys, right? And it's like, why? And I have to, it's a skill thing. Like those guys, but I'm not trying to do that. I've never been that person to screw around with people. No. That's not who I'm competitive, but I want it to be
because we got to fight for it. Like we're not right. I feel like guys like that. I mean, yes, he's probably dedicated a ton of time to it, but there's a natural ability aspect that, the people that just make it look easy that we're just not, or we're not with this thing anyways, you know, like.
So it is one of those things that as frustrating as watching those things can be, I can get stuff, I can learn things from it. And I have, and I've tried to implement that stuff. And I guess what it comes down to is I don't want to quit that game because I really, really like it. So I just have to resolve that win may not come. It may never happen. And that's okay because I love that game and I just want to keep playing it. And as much as I want the win, I don't want that to be the thing that makes me go, I'm never playing this game again because I'm never getting the win.
Gotcha.
So Fortnite, felt really good about it. Got down to 5th place. Great. And then I watched a whole bunch of streams on Sea of Thieves. And I decided that was a game that I really, really, really wanted to play. So I did the pre-order.
It's been on our radar for sure already. Like that's
It was not a game that I had a ton of interest in. It was something that was there and I was like, yeah, okay, whatever. It wasn't something I was going to jump on. I didn't have a ton of interest in it at the time. And it wasn't until I kind of started watching a couple of players that I went, all right, I kind of get what this is and I see how it's going to work. And if it works out that way, this could be a really, really unique, fun game. So I did pre-order it so I could get into the closed beta, and I got about an hour into it. Not a ton of time. It was really was a lot of, I'm just trying to get into a game. They had some authentication issues, so like logins weren't working, and it took me a long time to get into a game. When I finally did, I ended up in a game. Basically, like you start off with the option of doing like the easy mode, which is I think you spawn into a crew with other people. In fact, I know you do because I saw that part of matchmaking. There's the next level, which is basically like only 2 people, as opposed to starting with 4. You start with 2, or you can go solo. And solo, it doesn't matter. The game is still going to matchmake you with other players, and you are still going to be in an open world with other pirates. It just depends on how many people are going to be in your crew at the time, how it starts. I ended up starting the solo mission or the solo run basically just because I could not get the full crew or either of the other crew options to actually go through. And I still end up having to sit there, like hit enter a bunch of times to try and, get the game to click over.
Gotcha.
When it finally did, beautiful game already. That's right out the gate. Like that's just a pretty game. Really beautiful, really very much so in the style that Rare you would expect out of them. Like lots of good, like kind of angles, bright colors. The characters are bubbly and fun and all that. And I don't know how it's going to start you off in the real game. I assume, probably not quite as far along here. You're starting off though with, you've got weapon wheels, or you've got inventory wheels that have, you've got a watch, like a stopwatch on it. It's got a compass, a bucket, a shovel, spots for you picking up planks of wood and cannonballs. And you also start, your ship is there. It's ready to go. You can basically hop right on your ship, go out to the sea. And that's kind of what I did, which not the smartest thing in the world to do, but I just wanted to get out. I just wanted to go and experience a little bit.
Why?
Because, well, when you don't know how to sail.
That's right. There are like active sailing mechanics to it.
There 100% are active sailing mechanics. So you have got to captain the ship. So steering using the wheel, sure. which is always going to be harder because you've got the mast right in front of you that's totally blocking direct sight, so you can only see left and right. You have to lower and raise the sail, depending on how fast you want to go. If you want to catch the wind at the highest speed, you drop the sail. Then you angle it so you catch the wind.
Okay.
Then you have to pilot. Then you have to steer, obviously. While you're doing that, depending on how heavy the seas are, like if you're going through and it's like really choppy, you can start bouncing around, and then your ship will start taking on water. So you got to pull out your bucket and start bailing water. If you get into an actual fight, or again, this can happen just from bouncing around in the water, as far as I can tell, because I think it happened to me. You get holes in your boat, so you got to have wood planks to patch the hole. Then you got to bail the water, otherwise you're going to sink. So there's all that stuff. On top of that, you've got a map section so that you can see like where you are on the map. There is a little section where where you decide what voyage you're going to go on, and your voyages are your progression. That's your missions. So okay. You get your voyages on land from one of 3 factions, and like one of the factions are gold, and I can't remember what they're called, but one is like they just want buried treasure and gold. The tradesmen are interested in travel, so you'll take items like gunpowder and boxes of things. You'll transport those along a trade route, but of course the trade route, other pirates, krakens, sharks, those kinds of things. And then the last one is I don't remember what they're called, but they're kind of like pseudo necromancers, where they want the skulls of formerly living pirates. So you go and you fight dead skeleton pirates. Okay. It's really, really novel. like all of this is really great. It's got crossplay between Xbox and PC, so that's terrific. Like, I love that.
And this is all still the single player aspect to it?
It's not single player at no point. It can be if you choose to be, but you are always going to be in a world with other pirates.
But you didn't matchmake.
I chose to not matchmake, essentially.
Right,
I chose
okay.
to skip matchmaking in the sense that I won't have any pirates in my ship. But that doesn't mean that you can't recruit people, I don't think. I think in the technical alpha you can't. But I did, like, I totally saw somebody. I saw another ship. He sank my ship. We ended up hanging out on an island together. I stole his ship. Then he scuttled his ship and it sank. But it's not the point.
No, I am curious about that. Like, what happens when you choose single player for all intents and purposes? Because this game seems like way more of a sure thing multiplayer wise, and I feel like that's how they've been selling it really too. Like, there's obvious fun to be had there. So I am curious also what happens when you choose, to go it alone for a little bit. So
it is totally viable. Like, I was able to sail my ship and do what I needed to do. It's just more stuff. You do have to pay a little closer attention to, which direction am I going? And you're at a disadvantage if you're the only one on a ship and another ship is there and they're going to fire on you.
Right.
But that doesn't mean you can't survive, and it doesn't mean you can't be successful. You clearly can be. And they built the game to be that, but very obviously the game is meant to be played with other people. And I'm actually, I think Beth and Ian are both going to try pick it up. We're going to pick it up and play it as because with Beth I don't have to buy another copy of it. I can just game share it, and she can use it on her account, and then Ian will whatever. So yeah, I'm looking forward to this in that respect, and it is not they've done a really great smart thing here where levels don't exist. You can get commendations, so you can get titles. You can upgrade your stuff, but there is no actual number level. And any mission that you can get, anybody can go to. If you have a crew of people that just started and you've been playing for a year, they can all join you on that one super long, hard voyage. They can totally do it, and they don't lose. They don't lose anything. They're not at a disadvantage in any respect other than not knowing, they haven't done as much.
We've had a good bunch of years of putting RPG mechanics in everything.
Yeah.
Like, taking them out a little bit here and there sounds like a next level type stuff here. Like, that's
yeah.
And for a good reason too. It seems like here they're making the case for it even.
Definitely. And one of the other things that they implemented here that I think is absolutely fantastic is they are very, very big, obviously, on the co-op aspect and the communication aspect. Communicating as a pirate, that's, you got to do it, right? You if you're the captain, if you're driving the ship, you need to be able to say, we need to go west. I need you to flip the main to port.
Sure.
Or whatever, but they've also focused on making sure that people that don't want to talk, or people that can't talk, whatever, that there is nonverbal communication that is visible, visual, easy to understand.
I don't have to voice chat with these jokers.
You do not. And what one of the producers mentioned is that they are actively looking into creating a matchmaking system that takes that into account. So if you don't want to talk to people, you will be match made with people who don't want to talk to people.
Forget that. I can't wait to set up a session with you and all of our friends and then just turn my mic off, man. I'm just not.
That's it. You don't have to talk to us. You can sit. You can actually go down to the galley, and one of there are two things that are in your inventory immediately in the alpha. One is an accordion, and the other is an organ grinder. And so when I ran into the dude on the island who sank my ship, he comes running up and he's got his sword out. So I just pulled out the organ grinder and started playing it. He pulls out his accordion and they sync. So then they start playing together, and then you can have there are emotes and stuff, so you can dance and stuff to it and all that.
Dude, I love my organ grinders, dude. I would never choose anything but organ grinder. Actually,
there's a lot of really cool things to it. I love that one of the most simple functions of pulling out your map and looking at your map is you can turn it around and show it to people, because you may have a map that I don't have. Just because we're going on a voyage, we're looking for something. I can mark the spot on the ship map so that everybody on the ship can say, this is where we're going. Okay. But then I'm the one that has the map and says, we've landed, or, we've come ashore. We need to go this direction. We're looking for this tree. Okay. X marks the spot over here, but I can show it to you. Like, you actually flip it. And I love that.
Cool. Yeah, no, it's a nice touch.
I do think that one of the kind of concerns here for some people may be that because Rare is truly going for a pirate game, there's no story, and from my understanding, there's no intention on ever doing one. It's meant to be bite-size, like adventures. It's almost okay. Like Destiny / Skyrim light, because you've got this open world, you can kind of do whatever you want, but there's no story, so it's more like Destiny, and you still interact with people, and you have the missions, but there's just no overarching story, because that's perfect.
I think it's smart, man. Yeah, no, I mean, coming from me, who's the story guy, like put story and everything, who very much values story over most other things in a game, like, I think that's the right call.
And this is, and I legitimately am excited to play this game with other people. Like, I'm looking forward to getting Beth into this, and Ian, and I hope this is a game that when it comes out,
I will very likely be playing with you.
You check this out. Yeah. Everything I've said has been pretty positive, so I am going to talk about the kind of negative experience that I've had, and it's been minute. And it does fully come down to keeping in mind that this is a technical alpha.
Well, if you've got just issues that can be traced to the current state of the game, I don't even know if we need to.
Well,
you just say it's buggy. What?
It's buggy. Not buggy. It's not bugs that are the issue. Right. The concern is the lack of content.
I don't know if we need to talk content at all for an unfinished game. Yeah.
My reasoning, though, for bringing up the content is based on what they've talked about. They have 3 main things that you're going to be doing. The 4th kind of being PvP or interaction with players, I guess. It doesn't have to be PvP. Is that going to be enough to continue this for a long time? Is it going to be a lot of the same thing? Is it going to be 3 of the same types of missions over and over again, where X marks a spot every single time? It's always the same thing. Trade routes are always going to be the same thing.
Right.
Probably not. They've got a lot of variety here, but these are...
I would say probably... Yes, like, I mean, at some point, that's what this game is,
right?
Like, especially if we're not falling back on story that much. Like, this is going to live and die by the loop, I think.
Definitely.
Which seems to be fun at this point. Like, I don't...
Sure. What I'm saying is, are the missions always going to be kind of the same thing, or are they going to are they going to treat it like kind of a Destiny where they're going to be adding live events in here and there? Are they going to be doing things like here, you're out in the middle of the ocean, and suddenly, the Kraken shows up and is making, supposedly there's a Kraken in there, but things like that, so it's something that I'm pre-ordered. I've got the game. It's coming. I'm going to put the time into it, and hopefully, I'm crossing my fingers that this is a game that is going to be something fun and unique and something I want to keep going back to.
Sure. Let's do it.
Let's do it.
That's cool.
Yeah.
And also way better than anything I'm going to tell you. So.
Okay.
The times I was able to play, I'm back into Star Wars Battlefront. This is where things get weird. Battlefront 2. Sorry. I should be playing the first one, actually, probably.
Might be better. Who knows?
And not even the first one. I should be playing like the first.
It's the first sequel is what you should be doing.
The one that EA doesn't want me to play, yeah. But I talked about the story. That's what I did before. I ran through all of the arcade content that they have. It's pretty unremarkable. Like, it's not really like the last time around. I feel like the arcade stuff was more of a horde mode. This time that's in there, but it's more structured, kind of like a multiplayer match. Actually, it's either they have 2 modes: Onslaught and Team Battle. Onslaught's maybe more of a horde mode, but still, there's, depending on the modifiers, respawns or not, 1 life or not, 1-hit kills or not. That stuff is interesting and cool, but it doesn't really have the impact, or has the same impact as the last game, and that's just not enough this time.
It's not resonating.
Not so much. And this is why that's weird, because I dipped my toe in a multiplayer as well, which it's competent. Like, it's good. Like, I didn't run into any glitches. Like, it's solid. There was no lag. Like, the matches seem good. That's not really the draw of any game for me, so I don't know how much that matters, in so much that I'm going to try and get some achievements and call it a day probably or something.
Right.
But what ends up happening is that so far, the campaign is the best part of that game for me.
Brutal. Just brutal.
Yeah, that doesn't seem right.
No.
So
I am glad that this is one that I did not choose to dive into.
I don't, especially if you didn't like the first one. Like, and some of the stuff that's most disappointed about this game, because there's all the loot box stuff, whatever, sure. Like, they haven't turned back on purchasing or whatever
yet.
In fact, there's still just a blank screen for it. They haven't even put in like a placeholder or taken it off the menu for that matter. But the little things, like Battlefront was a gorgeous game. Like, I'm an interface junkie. Much of it based on how that game looked and the design aesthetic of it, which they took throughout the game. Yeah, it's very simple. Like, even just the menus and stuff like that. Like, that was all really good looking. Battlefront 2 doesn't have that going for it. The other small touches, like the flavor text on the loading screens, and not that I remember any of those from the first Battlefront, but this time around they just seem trite and almost like insulting almost. Like, you're going to Mos Eisley, you know, there's an arcade mode with Chewie and Han, and the flavor text is something like, oh, they're at it again, but they've been in tougher scrapes than this. Go get them. And I'm like, oh, come on. Like,
it sounds like a 12-year-old's adventure book, like a choose your own adventure.
Like, it feels like I'm being treated like a 12-year-old, which with Star Wars, I guess there's a line to be drawn somewhere along that.
Nope,
you know,
it's
with,
for adults.
with nostalgia and
nope, it's for adults.
Okay.
Kids are dumb and don't know Star Wars.
Again,
give them Star Trek.
The
nerds.
So it's a bummer. How are they losing me on the other stuff? I liked the campaign that nobody liked.
Yeah, no, it's weird and sickening.
So
you are a confusing human.
Yeah, I'll be playing more of that.
God.
Player Unknown's Battlegrounds.
PUBG.
I haven't got much more into it. Like, I haven't got a better place than third, which I think we talked about last time. I just haven't had the time. Like, it is pick up and play, and I have been. Also, you talked about with Battle Royale. You know, getting used to having fun in the moment rather than being invested in that win. But when you don't have much time to play and you play one game a night every week, and you know. Yeah. This does mark the first time I died over 50th place. Yes. And I did play another game right after that wasn't, I did get over 50, but I hadn't.
48.
Yeah, it's also not the way to play that game. There still is a level of investment that I haven't been able to give to it, even to have fun with not winning at that
Yeah,
thing.
I mean, so. you definitely have to get into the groove of it and get it playing so that you know what you're doing. Like, it's all kind of a little, yeah. I know what you're saying.
So that's that. The one thing, though, the thing I spent the most time on, and this is probably due to it being very portable, is I've for a long time been trying to get into, however you say it, for the purposes of this cast, it will be Picross.
Picross, sure.
I've heard that Picross 3DS is amazing. I wanted to start at the beginning, you know, because I knew there have been some other games. I went to you were here. We went to the retro game store here in my town.
Yeah.
They didn't have a copy of Picross DS for the original DS, which the 3DS one I have will still take those carts. So I ended up finally getting one on eBay. It came, but before that, I had heard that the best way to go on iOS if you're going to get one of these, because there's a ton of those out there and they all have different money mechanics to them.
Sure.
There's one that seems to be the most popular that is interesting in that Picross, dang it. See? Okay, now we'll just do both.
Picross.
It's a puzzle game. It's reminiscent of Sudoku. I've never been able to get to the interesting part of Sudoku because there's math involved. And I'm like, well, no.
I want to have fun.
Forget your math stuff. So this one, it's pictures, so it's better.
Yeah,
for stupids.
It's memory.
It's got numbers on the sides. It tells you what blocks are filled in the grid, and there's a space between numbers that then you have to divine what the space is based on the cross play the left column, upper column. You figure out what can be where, and then you get a picture from filling in blocks, usually a pixel picture. So I found, it's called Paint It Back on iOS.
Wow.
It's actually pretty good.
I can relate that to something on the Book Club for Movies podcast.
Oh, cool. So tune in for that.
Yeah.
It's a good one of those. Like I've been having a lot of fun with it. It's got a one-time purchase price if you do want to go that far, but what it gives you before that is really cool. So I got that. I started playing that. I was like, yeah, I really do like this. So then I did get Picross DS finally off of eBay. That came in. I've been playing that a bunch too. So those two things, I'm deep into Picross over here. So
Picross.
Yeah, that's my PUBG for the most part.
I didn't mention this because I don't really play it, but I did boot it up actually the other day, and I've played for about 2 hours over the past couple weeks. I've been playing Hearthstone again.
Oh, really?
I never got super into it in the first place, and I don't like so many new cards that I have to nuke everything. But
right,
I do like that game. Like it's such a simple game to get into, and it did make me kind of go, oh man, do I want to get into Gwent?
I've looked at that game because it still shows up. It had such a weird launch that I'm not sure when I want to start playing it again.
And that's the thing is like the most recent, they've had a bunch of issues there where people have been upset with some of the decisions that were made with cards because some cards are getting overpowered and they're not. Yeah,
that was bound to happen.
I don't know. Hearthstone's the same way, but I.
So let's look at Gwent again. Got it. Message received.
I'm into it. Yeah,
loud and clear.
Let's check it out. We never actually played it together, so
that's true. Yeah, the
beta didn't
I guess private match has got to be in there now. It's out, right? Like it's the copy in my thing that's ready for download still says game preview at the top, so I never know. I don't know.
Weird,
because it's a free to play, isn't it?
I actually don't know that. That's
things we don't know with Matt and Ryan. Hey, so those are the games I played. I'm sure we'll talk a little bit more about each of those next week. The next part of this show is going to be different in so much that and really relate it back to, I think, a lot of what you said about your kind of trip with Battle Royale, like getting the most out of what we're doing. In the past, when we've talked news or Game World stuff, we've kind of just talked about what's been happening. We're cutting that down to things we have something to say about.
You know, chalk it up to inexperience. Some may call it a mistake. I mean, that would be a good description for our show. But
some might call 0 hit points a mistake.
That's what I'm saying. But I think that one of the things we need to do is, or we're migrating to here, is there are lots of things that we have lots of things we could say about, but not a lot of things that really deserve attention, or maybe we have something that a little more in depth, I guess, is what we're looking to do, is actually have conversation instead of just spewing off a couple of not witty retorts.
Stuff that might have been interesting to us. Like, I mean, games news still interests us, obviously, like when a game's coming out or something about something, but a lot of times that's it.
Whereas something like this, Xbox Game Pass is going to get all first-party exclusives on day one.
And speaking of Sea of Thieves, which you played, like this includes so far Sea of Thieves, Crackdown 3, State of Decay 2, games that were and probably still are coming out at $60 on the shelf somewhere.
Yeah, get that $9 a month, and you're getting it day one. Which, I mean, at this point, Sony is certainly not doing that. So that's no. I mean, and we don't need to bring up the competition in this situation necessarily, not to knock Sony.
Well, if we bring up the competition, it's going to be to say that this is why Xbox might be doing this. Like they've got to
sure
keep their sights in another direction, and they've got to make some concessions. And this is a concession, man. Like this is either the next step in the evolution of. I mean, it's where this is the Netflix of games. This is the next step in that direction. Whereas, Sony's not going to do that because they're sitting pretty on however they want to do stuff. Being in the lead or whatever.
They've got their version of the Game Pass thing too. But it was a lot of older games. It was a lot of streaming stuff. Whereas this is straight up download the whole game. And as long as you're a member, the game is on your box and you're good. Which, games like Sea of Thieves, that's a game that passed Ryan maybe like a year ago. You may have looked at that, heard what I had to say, and go, no, just not doing it, period. Because No, and that's because a year ago you hadn't played PUBG and you hadn't had that. I don't want to say it was revelatory, but you did. You talked about it last year that you, much like I'm doing now, you're also readjusting how you play a game. And maybe a year ago you didn't have that, but now
I would say even longer than a year ago. I mean, you're talking Overwatch, maybe you're talking Destiny, maybe like all these these experiences that I hadn't had before. Yeah, I gotcha.
That's still significant. Microsoft has certainly not put out as many games as people would like, and you've got delays like Crackdown and games that just don't hit as hard as people would like Quantum Break, but ultimately, Microsoft is still pushing games out, and they are definitely trying to increase that first-party visibility and get more games going.
Well, yeah, this lives or dies by that future. Like this also comes on the heels of Phil Spencer saying that they were committing more and more resources to first-party before they even made this announcement. So they at least understand that this doesn't just happen because of Sea of Thieves, State of Decay 2, and Crackdown 3.
Right.
Like, there needs to be more after this. Like, they need to be coming out. In fact, you got to wonder at this point, well, I guess Crackdown 3 probably needed more work no matter what, but you got to wonder if the part of the delay didn't figure into, well, we're going to need to spread out these releases, if we got them, because they don't have any more high profile releases than this coming out, I would say. These got to be coming out at regular intervals, so people feel like they're getting their money's worth out of these subscriptions,
for sure,
out of the Game Pass. So,
yeah, and I mean, and while they've got a decent, over 100 games in the library, there are, I would say, a majority of players are not necessarily looking for that nostalgia, even if it's a year, 2 years old nostalgia, even kind of a year in some cases. A lot of people do want that, what's the fresh hot thing? And in Sea of Thieves is a great example. Like, how many people are going to get this Games Pass just for? And that's actually a question I do legitimately have. What does the Sea of Thieves sell through versus Sea of Thieves through Game Pass?
Right. Well, and I'm literally looking at, okay, do I want to spend $60 on Crackdown 3 when it comes out, which I don't even know what the date is now, or do I want to just subscribe to this thing? I mean, obviously, what is it? $10 a month. I think they released you can do a 6 months for 60 or something like that. So why would I not, when Crackdown 3 comes out, just get this thing for 6 months?
It's not a contract, so you can cancel anytime, obviously. Cancel anytime, 0 hit points. But do
not cancel 0 hit points at any time.
Yeah, no, keep it going.
Anyways, that it's got huge implications.
It does.
If we're gonna say a lot of things about all these things, we might want to keep moving. But
all right, that's fair.
Thing number one. Thing number two, Anthem has been delayed. Maybe not the thing we want to talk about the most, although if one thing has not changed about 0 hit points, it's that we think game delays are just great.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
Work on your game.
Support it. Always
what
delay your games. Never release the game.
It's the fact that with this delay and this is coming from Kotaku mostly. Kotaku.
Crade Tackett.
That they are now, some people inside even wondering if Anthem is becoming just, quote, inextricably tied to the future of Bioware itself, like kind of almost too big to fail type thing, right?
Yeah. It's interesting in the sense that I think that Bioware is reacting heavily to the backlash in Destiny. Destiny 2 has seen significant backlash from the community, and it's shown. Like, Schreier's talked about it. It's been all over Kotaku, the fact that it's not just a small portion of the fan base. The fan base is kind of pissed at Bungie. They're really unhappy for the most part, it sounds like.
And EA after Battlefront 2 and I guess, there's a lot of
they are starting, some of these places are starting to realize that consumers get mad. And then when consumers get mad at video games, they go to places like CNN and they go to places like Bloomberg, and then Bloomberg starts reporting EA is having a problem, and then EA sees a dip in financials. While they may have made the money back, they don't want that PR. That PR is bad, and it was bad. It didn't work out great for them.
Right.
And I do think that BioWare is keen to that. And then on top of that, I think they also see that even without their own hype train, the hype train got built from E3, that video that the gameplay trailer that they showed. And then the fact that on top of that, again, I go back to this is going to be a game that siphons players from Destiny, because this game is in every respect BioWare saying we can do Destiny also, and it's better if we do it. And I have to wonder if this is going to end up being one of those things where they become a victim of their own success, where the game may come out, may be terrific, but if it's not quote unquote good enough, it's going to be Bungie or BioWare may be dead in the water. If that game is not Destiny 1, Destiny 2 plus, they're going to run it.
No, it needs to be better. Yeah, I mean, and as much as people apparently love Destiny 2, they haven't hung around a ton. Like that's seen a little bit of a drop, and yeah, it's seen some backlash too. But this is EA's marquee games as a service evolution release thing. Yeah. Like a lot is riding on it, and yeah, after Andromeda, a lot of BioWare is riding on it. So
it's one to keep an eye on, and I do want to keep an eye on this one. It's something that I am keen to see, because I like the idea of Destiny, and I told everybody, Destiny's problem totally lay in the fact that was a game that was built upon the idea of having a great big world, a great big narrative, and it never delivered on it. And when it finally delivered on inklings of it, it was too late. So right. I'm hoping Anthem learns from that.
That would be the thing. I mean, and I wonder, just because I'm over games as a service, like before it begins,
Definitely.
Type thing. Yeah. You got to wonder if especially by time this comes out, 2019 is when the delay is till now. Delay the game any further than March 2019, I guess is what they're promising. But like, if by then, like, who knows what happens? EA is probably going to be pretty careful, but I don't know. Anybody else could spoil it even more for them, just like EA did for everybody else.
It's true.
With loot boxes or whatever.
Yeah.
Last thing we have, you're going to have to take me through this one, because I almost still don't believe it. Epic Games is shutting down Paragon.
They are. Yeah. This was a little bit of there was some writing on the wall with this for me right after Battle Royale came out. They ended up finding that people liked Battle Royale a lot. and in doing that, they realized, oh no, we need more developers to get our stuff going and keep this going. Hey, Paragon developers, come here. Whole bunch of Paragon devs got pulled over to Fortnite.
Oh, I didn't know that was.
And that was definitely a harbinger. It wasn't supposed to be the end of it. They came out at the end of last year and said, we're reevaluating. We're going to see where we're going to go. Ultimately, what happened here? I think there was a multitude of things that occurred. But ultimately, yeah, they're shuttering the game. April 26th, game is shut down. Between now and then, there's not going to be any real support for it. They're not maintaining, they're not building things for it. They're not adding things. There's no bug fixes. It is what it is. They couldn't hold on to players. That was their big thing. Their retention rate was not great. And a huge part of their retention rate issue, I think, kind of came from a multitude of things. And one of them being, the game started out when I first went to North Carolina and I played it and I spent time with Epic. The guy directing was this dude named Steve Superville. He had a direct idea and vision of where he wanted to go with the game. And they built around that, and then he left. And I don't know how that happened. I don't know if he quit, got fired, or just got a better offer. I don't know. When they switched that direction, or when they switched directors at that point, the direction changed too. And they were trying to find ways to retain players, to keep the game interesting. And they kind of started throwing things at the wall and seeing what stuck. So initially,
they had a lot of, seems like, high profile updates that they did changed a lot, right?
Very much so, from the beginning. And that was something that a number of players did complain about. I think that so many MOBAs are out there. They were trying to pull the best from everyone and mush it together and create something unique, but it didn't work that way. And then they tried to change it and tried to make it out something else. And it kept just spiraling out of control. And They ultimately walked away with a point of saying, this is actually here. I'm just going to read this quote right here. We didn't execute well enough to deliver on the promise of Paragon. We have failed you despite the team's incredibly hard work, and we're sorry. And that's it. And so they're shuttering the game. And the one nice thing they are doing is if you spent any money in that game at all, any dollars, they will refund it. So
Epic themselves, not Sony, not Microsoft.
Correct.
Yeah, Epic's been on this trip for a bit, almost to the point where it's not really worth. It's not a new thing. It's just how it is now. Like where they were talking about how they're going to be doing games moving forward, and it was very much kind of this games as a service or kind of rolling updates. Like, did Paragon ever get to 1.0 technically? I guess I don't know.
It never got out of beta.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, so
I don't think it was ever fully released. No.
This is what happens with a model like that, whether they came out and said that at the beginning. But I mean,
yeah,
I think where that is a possibility, I think they're kind of making good on it. Like offering across the board refunds is a great thing to do for something like this when something like this happens.
Yeah.
So I feel like it's a danger. It was a known, but I don't know how. I don't know what better way you could do it, I guess is what I'm saying.
Right. Yeah. No, I agree with you. I don't know that they had to make a business decision, and there's always the don't threaten developers. Don't write to developers and tell them how they're the worst
are those guys
people.
back too?
Of course they are. Don't tell them that they're they're these garbage humans. It's not the case.
You're right. You know what? Paragon back on, you guys.
Yeah, exactly. Like, yeah, you're gonna really endear yourself to that person. I hate you. I'm gonna kill you. Well, all right. I guess we'll turn the game back on.
It's
Paragon.
The other side of the coin is this gets increasingly weird how much Epic is putting their eggs into Battle Royale. Like
into
Battle
Fortnite,
Royale is the thing taking off here, right? Like not necessarily Fortnite. I know they're improving different aspects of Fortnite, but
so that one of the huge things that people have been questioning is okay, Paragon's gone. Does this mean that you guys are going to actually put in time with Save the World? Because the Save the World portion of the game has certainly been neglected in comparison to Battle Royale.
Right.
Hasn't been. I'm not saying it's been dropped. I'm saying in comparison.
But again, the thing that they not took, but obviously, we're working. We talked about that a whole bunch, but we're working with Blue Hole on. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah.
Hey. The other thing that we're going to do with this cast from here on out, you may remember...
New segment, round. Nice segue.
The new segment is a nice segue? That would be new.
It was a nice segue to talking about that.
Was it?
It was.
So, lightning round is gone for the most part. It had a good run. We love doing it. Go check it out. Plenty of episodes for you. But... and I feel like this episode is going to be longer than maybe the others from here on out as we get a handle on this new format.
Well, there's a lot of explaining the format here, so
I guess that too.
Yeah, this is almost
Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, almost an inaugural episode. Edit a lot of it.
But at the end of the show, we wanted to pick a subject, or it doesn't always have to be current events related. The two choices we had this week kind of are. Which serves as a good kind of launch off point, but
we're curating this. We're pulling this out of. This is not like an inherent thing. It's not something that is an article. It is something that an article spurned for us to talk about.
That makes sense. Let's do that.
Yeah.
So this week there was an announcement that came out from a developer called Jujubee that they're doing a game based on the Russian Navy nuclear submarine K-141, which, if you remember, I didn't, went down, and I think sadly just during a training exercise. But the people that go do the Wikipedia on it, but there were 181 sailors that got trapped on the sub. The Russian government 118. Okay, see, that's why you need to read the Wikipedia. All right. So, but they got trapped, and the Russian government refused to respond, or was then slow to respond. Like freaking Putin was doing his Trump impression out on holiday and didn't even come back until like 4 days later. But then they swore that they all died immediately, but then it turned out 23 survived. Anyways, what Jujubee is setting out to do is what they call, quote, the first fully fledged adventure documentary game in history, which essentially means they're going to make a also in quotes probably, quote unquote, game out of this occurrence. And there's a trailer out there you can watch. So it's got us thinking not only of the kind of short-lived history of this genre, if it exists, but also just the viability, I guess, of it, of this idea, because it's something, honestly, on its face, I would freaking love. Like this idea sounds great. Like it sounds like a great next step for games. It sounds like something that we haven't necessarily done or seen. And this is maybe where we start is I asked you what games have already done this before, or what games maybe have made steps in this direction before. And you were thinking Valiant Hearts, maybe.
I think Valiant Hearts definitely. Like so this kind of it one of the questions that this does beg to me is you have games like a Call of Duty, okay, or a Battlefield 1. And Battlefield 1 is one that I also mentioned that I think it kind of falls along these lines.
This War of Mine was another one you mentioned.
Yeah, and I think that the main things that you get from those is that the developers understand a story that they want to tell. Valiant Hearts, I think, is probably the best example of this out of the three, because they tell a full-fledged story of loss during the war of the Great War, and but it's not done with real names. That's the thing that's a little different. Is that they're amalgamations of people. They're theoretical. They're abstractions of people. And same thing, Battlefield 1 especially, where they did use real people. You did have Lawrence of Arabia, and you did have some of these other people that were real people. But also still, they're abstractions because they're purposefully making a war game that
the game is still the thing.
The game is the thing. It's still, you want to have fun and maybe get a little bit of knowledge here. I think this War of Mine, out of the three of those, is the one that kind of goes the opposite direction, but also is far more abstract, where this War of Mine is about war-torn, like Bosnia, Sarajevo, using a fictional country, and you're taking place in you're living that through the eyes of the survivors of a war. Slightly different, but I think that the concept of like an adventure documentary, I think that still is valid.
Yeah, I think if in the future we're looking back, like let's say the adventure documentary does become a genre that we're talking about on a daily basis a couple years from now, like I think we'll look back on games like that as precursors, I guess is what I'm saying. Like I don't think this is necessarily something, especially if we're sticking with that title, adventure documentary, I wouldn't call those games documentaries necessarily. Like they do use events, but they are abstract enough, and they are still games. Like this is the crux maybe of this, and the game that most comes to mind is the game that never made it out, which was 6 Days in Fallujah. Right. Like this game lives or dies, and this was the controversy around 6 Days, was with accuracy and gamification. Like how much, like people were upset because they were like, even though this was coming, the story with 6 Days in Fallujah was that the developer Atomic Games, I believe, was receiving their orders. That's probably a bad way to put it for an army game. They were working with the Marine Corps and with the 3rd Battalion 1st Marines. And in the middle of trying to develop a game with them, they got deployed to Fallujah, the second Battle of Fallujah, and then came back and were like, "Hey, let's make the game about that." They were asked by Marine Corps members. It wasn't something that they, as a developer, were like, "Yeah, let's do that." They were asked to tell the story. And this is in 2004, so I guess it was ahead of its time in a lot of ways, because what they of course saw were these groups like Stop the War Coalition, and I think that was included by a father of slain Royal Military Police Lance Corporal Thomas Keyes. So they had people coming out and being like, no, don't make a game about this. Like that, this is before Gone Home, right? This is before walking simulators, or maybe a lot of before they had this terminology. The genre that he used to refer Atomic Games, as you say, used to refer to 6 Days was a survival horror game, which again probably isn't going to help you out any.
Yeah,
right?
But it is on one hand, it's a very apt name too. Obviously,
yeah. Well, especially if you're
apt genre
making something that looks akin to Call of Duty, like the first-person shooter that everybody knows about. Yeah, you could see some groups being like, "No, we don't want a Call of Duty about Fallujah, the thing that happened like a couple months ago."
Right.
Like that's incredibly, tone deaf or disrespectful or something like that. But now we're in a world where we have Gone Home and where we have these. If we were the Game Awards, it would be Games for Change.
Yeah, I mean, I guess.
Or no, wait, they changed it. Impact.
Games for Impact, sure.
Impact,
yeah, they're socially. I just think they're socially aware games.
Right.
That's I think the goal is for them to be socially aware in some way.
Papers, please. Games that again stretch the definition of game, right? Yeah. So we live in a very different world now. One where I think the adventure documentary stands a greater chance. There is maybe some question about whether or not this game, specifically Kursk, telling the story of the submarine, is going to be that game. Right. Like, I love that we have somebody here going into it, but the trailer, if you watch the trailer, could go both ways. Like,
right. And I watched it and I agree with you.
I mean, there's a little bit of blood in there. Like, there's the tone they appear to set seems very reverential, which is going to be the key. I think that the key is going to be reverence and accuracy with stuff like this. There's one quote from him too, where it says that it's a first person perspective and you will be playing the role of a spy attempting to gain information about the ship's unique torpedo technology, which seems dumb. Like, unless that dude actually exists, I think you're going in the wrong direction for your quote adventure documentary game.
Yeah. And this does go back to then, okay. So now you like, okay, so you would say, you said that Valiant Hearts, This War of Mine, Battlefield 1, you won't count them as documentaries. They don't fall into that.
No,
whereas to me, they are, because they're no different than any other reenactment that I've seen on the History Channel. It's a reenactment.
Well, they're telling History Channel, then yeah, we've got to
fine the Learning Channel, whichever channel has intervention. But they're documentary in the same sense that Valiant Hearts, for example, everything that happened in that game did occur, just not necessarily in that, like, to those people in that way. But like the general idea of what occurred there did occur. The dog probably didn't share a whole lot of information with people.
This is still instructive, because if you remember, one of my main issues with Valiant Hearts was that on top of this beautiful game that did evoke a lot of that feeling, like a lot of what was important and impactful about the war, you were still hunting a boss. Like, there were still boss battles. They focused everything on that one, or there might have been two.
No, it was the one. Which
I thought was the complete misstep there. So in that, I would still.
I mean, it's okay. That's fair. I can give you that. I think that again, there is the dramatic recreation with. So it's documentary light. It's not complete.
That's what I'm saying. They're precursors. Like, no, they're games we'll look at. I want to see this turn into a full-fledged genre where it's more walking simulator, maybe survival horror, than first-person freaking spy whatever. Where you're on that ship as things go wrong. I guess we're talking game here. So where does the interactivity come in? Maybe because things are going to play out historically, but.
And clearly, like when you talk about I'm a spy and this, it makes it sound like that's their way of turning this into a walking simulator by making it be a quote unquote stealth game. You just walk around.
I think that's going to be a crutch. That's them being like, well, it's a game, so I guess maybe you got to be a spy. Or
not disagreeing. I think what my point I think was going to be was how realistic do you go with it? Because I think that's the question when you have people that are complaining that were so against the 6 Days in Fallujah. It was, well, we don't want to glorify it, So we don't want to glorify the violence because people died. We don't want to glorify the deaths of the people that did die. We don't want to disrespect them by not being true to them. I need to know who those people are. Like I need the real names of the people in that situation. Yeah. And if that spy, as you say, wasn't there, that like what else is not correct? What else in your documentary is now not right on.
Right. Yeah. I think that's going to be the struggle of this genre. Like this is developers especially are going to have to figure out where that line is. Cause I mean, we've lived with movies that don't adhere necessarily to, biopics that don't adhere necessarily
every single one you mean that's ever been made ever.
So that's understandable to a degree, but I mean, with games, you gotta, it seems more serious because you are maybe not glorifying, but
you're forcing interaction. You're taking a person and saying, play a person that was real that died here doing this job.
Yeah.
Oh, and have fun. Sounds good.
The stakes are high, which I think is where we can see the greatest amount of payoff too. So that's
the capper. That was perfect. Unreal.
And that's the new 0 hit points. Like I said, it probably won't be as long as this one was from here on out, but it will be a little different.
If you've got things to say, things to add, let us know. Talk to us. Like we'll bring it up on the show, and we will take your B ratings and we will berate you back, and you can
leave us a berating on iTunes.
Yeah, and do that
while you're at it.
So I'm looking forward to this change. The final bit of the show will always be kind of the same, and that's the reminder. What's coming out? What are we going to do? Is anything on the horizon?
Yeah, we're going to dump that list too. We're not just going to tell you everything that's coming out. We're going to tell you the things that look interesting that are coming out that we might buy, which right now it's nothing. I'm not
right now, yeah. I am this week, and I'm going to pick up PUBG for the Xbox so that you and I can play because we need to get that done.
Let's do it.
Yeah.
We haven't talked streaming schedule either too. I know they should look forward to some streaming.
Yeah, and I think that we're going to hold back on that because there's a lot going on with the streaming. It's going to come back. It's going to come back, I think, a little bit stronger, a little bit more content. But I'm personally not ready to unveil a stream schedule just yet. I'm still fine tuning, and I'm still trying to get everything set in my little streaming world so that when I do, it's something I can sit back and say, bam, we're happening.
Okay. So. I'm right there with you. I'm about a day away from my complete green screen setup. I did a test. Maybe the one thing the site did besides a couple tweets while during the hiatus there was I did stream PUBG with my green screen going, but it was a quick kind of down and dirty. I was running 5 new things at once, and it seemed to go all right, but it left me with a couple good ideas to kind of finalize stuff. So
yes,
yeah. Look forward to that. I look forward to everything. It's 0 hit points.
It's a new year. It's a new us. It's a new you. It's the new super 0hitpoints.com.